Hey, it's Soul with another video, and today we're going to talk about what is next in the World of Warcraft. I would love it if you were to give this video a like if you enjoy yourself, of course, and to subscribe for more coverage. So let's start with, well, who is next, actually? As you can tell, the dashing character you see here on screen is Thrall, the former war chief of the Horde, one-time Earth Warder, full-time orc, husband, and father. Now, why are we talking about Thrall? Well, he happens to be part of the key art to usher in BlizzCon 2023, which is going to happen later this year, and at $300 per ticket, we'd better get more than just a backpack. I expect to open it up and inside get some crazy swag and a plate of chicken and waffles and maybe a pair of concert tickets. But back to Thrall. Why is he on the key art, and should we care? A lot of folks are saying, yeah, we should care because the Warcraft character on the key art gives us a hint of what is coming in World of Warcraft's next expansion, which is expected to be announced in November at BlizzCon during open ceremonies. The setup pretty much demands it, actually. I mean, think about it. It's WoW's 10th expansion, to launch probably sometime in 2024 for the game's 20th anniversary. It's kind of a head theory that I'm stuck on, and I'm going to shove it down your throat. Before we go any further though, I don't want to string you along. I'm going to give you the TLDR now. We're just going to make a bunch of predictions today, and I honestly have no idea what the next expansion might be about, but I'm coming at this with the energy of, hey dude, we're all just kind of sitting around having some snacks and hanging out. So we're going to pull at some threads and pick up some breadcrumbs, tap into the copium, and have fun speculating what could be in store for WoW's biggest expansion announcement yet. Never mind what it's about or even if it'll be good, I just think the WoW team is going to try and make this a very big deal. I invite you to share your own thoughts and theories, rebuttals, and of course the WoW is dead comments. Let's go back to Thrall again. Thrall being here tells us a lot, and also a lot of nothing. It's a lot when you consider past BlizzCons. BlizzCon 9 in 2021 had no new expansion announcements, so featuring Bolvar and a Heroes of the Storm version of Deathwing, that doesn't communicate much. The last actual BlizzCon feels like it was about 50 years ago, but it was in 2019, and it featured Sylvanas. The expansion announced was Shadowlands. Battle for Azeroth did its best to foreshadow its next expansion, and featuring Sylvanas locked in the theory that we would be sticking to her story. 2018's key art featured Saurfang. Battle for Azeroth previewed the year before, so there was no surprise seeing him. In 2017, when Battle for Azeroth was first announced, the key art featured Jaina, which didn't give a very strong direction which way we'd be going, and in 2016 it also featured Sylvanas after Legion's announcement and launch. In hindsight, we can make some connections that, sure, okay, the person featured in the art is at least involved in the upcoming expansion in a prominent way. These characters have been high-profile NPCs, they've been raid bosses, and spoiler alert, one of them died. But the chosen character isn't an obvious indicator either. Saurfang was chosen as the key art after Battle for Azeroth's announcement, so there were no surprises there. If Saurfang was chosen instead of Jaina for the key art the year before in 2017, that would have raised a lot of questions as to what Saurfang's involvement would be, and the speculation will go on for months. With Thrall as the upcoming frontman, we've got to ask, is he going to be a raid boss? Is the expansion going to be centered around him? Will he be killed? It is Warcraft, and anything can happen. Of course, I could also feel the commenters right now saying that, okay, no way, Thrall of all people would never die. Chris Metzen would never let that happen. They'd sooner turn Thrall into like a Titan spirit to galvanize his eternal legacy or something. On the flip side, maybe Thrall could be given the best and most ceremonious goodbye ever, a grand and final send-off, a glorious and heroic death, or to become the martyr that jolts Azeroth into action. It's not a stretch to say that the WoW marketing team would rather not let just a picture spoil an expansion, but hey, it's all gravy if it gets people talking about it. Hence, we have Thrall as the key art, and we've got like 4 months or so to think this over, make more speculation videos, and have a very lively leak season. But if the key art happened to feature Tyrallion or Ilaria, well, okay, that would be way too obvious. That wouldn't be any fun at all. So, 10th expansion, 20 years of WoW, and with a publicly known Chris Metzen back on WoW's leadership team at some capacity. Oh, and we have Thrall, of course. The next expansion might not be exactly about him, but whatever happens to him, Thrall, ought to be huge. Alright, so let's pivot over to Dragonflight, what we've seen and what we currently know. I'm trying to establish a pattern and a conclusion that by the time this expansion's over, we'll have completed these major arcs for all of the flights. The Black Flight got a lot of exposition and they got a raid tier. The Blues got a very nostalgic and worthwhile experience via questing, and I'm pretty confident that the Bronze story will reach its apex in the upcoming patch. We've learned about the War of the Scaleborn book coming in the end of October, just days before BlizzCon, by the way. The book itself is a flashback of how it all went down between the Aspects and the Incarnates, with Alexstrasza and Vironoth as the likely central characters in this book. And by my estimates, it'll arrive while we're in the middle of patch 10.1.7. If the WoW team is following its own pattern, we can expect the story from this patch to lead directly into patch 10.2, which I'm going to guess will arrive sometime a little bit after November, with the timing that respects the holiday season and the new year. With all of that in mind, 10.2 may conclude the story of the Red Flight, and probably have us defeat at least one more Primal Incarnate. One part of my prediction is based on all the flights completing their stories by a certain time. It's also based on the 11.0 expansion launching by the end of 2024, all to line up with their usual plans for a 2-year expansion timeline and launching WoW's 10th expansion during its 20-year anniversary. It's all nice and pretty. If the WoW team continues following its usual pattern, we can expect a 10.2.5 and a 10.2.7, but are we sure, really? Because to be fair, we don't even have a 2024 roadmap yet. But we can make really far out estimates of a 10.3 patch and Season 4 sometime before summer, and if they can squeeze it in, a bonus season, just like with Shadowlands before the next expansion launches in November. Again, just a guess. So where does the green Dragonflight fit in all of this? We can easily imagine that they'll get attention somewhere between the Blues and the Bronzes with an impactful story without giving us a full dungeon or raid. The story could just be slotted into 10.2, just like how the Blue questline took place during 10.1. That might not be enough for Night Elf or Emerald Dream fans. Maybe something grander could take place during 10.2.5. If 10.2.7 is another prelude, the flight's storylines are neatly lined up for a big conclusion against the Incarnates in 10.3. A schedule like this fits, but obviously with so many ifs to get through, it's wobbly as all heck, so again, just another reminder, we're just having fun and speculating, okay? But even if this fits, there's a problem to keep in mind. Now, again, I'm assuming that WoW's next expansion is going to be announced at BlizzCon with a release about a year later. That much kind of makes sense, because we've been there. However, that also means that we would be learning about what is next in the World of Warcraft during patch 10.1.7. That's really early, it's super early, all due to the timing of Dragonflight having launched in late November, so now nothing makes sense. In what world is the WoW team okay with announcing an expansion when they're barely halfway through telling its current story? It's a question that threatens to bring most of these theories crumbling down, and it opens the door for an expansion announcement pushed back to spring 2024, or for Dragonflight itself to be a longer expansion, take that as you will. Perhaps folks in the comments have something to say about that possibility, but here I'm going to stay on course with my current theory. Let's take a look at Thrall again, one of the lead protagonists of the entire Warcraft franchise. Obviously, he's changed a lot over the years. It could be that the key art is about more than just Thrall, or who he is, but what he represents. We can look at him as a character and a franchise that has been around for a really long time, 20 years. Here's where we were, here's where we're going. It's a message maybe that perhaps all of WoW needs to experience this sort of upgrade. For the longest time, I've been a skeptic that there should be a big high-def upgrade or a world update because the scale of doing something like that is just too much. It's a personal opinion, as someone who still hasn't even appreciated the Cataclysm update by playing through the updated zones. I'm going to react the same way if zones are updated yet again. But the question isn't whether you or I would prefer it or if it's even good, but is this a possible direction WoW can go? So let's go with this crazy idea that the world is given the same treatment as the updates to Arathi Basin and Warsong Gulch from a few years ago. Environments that are dolled up, but navigating it will still feel familiar. Maybe the boundaries that separate zones are given another touch-up to feel natural, maybe given a bit of that Dragon Isles treatment with elevations and depth. Old fires can finally be put out, new buildings to show growth and regrowth, but nothing too major. Perhaps the Barrens could still have manned outposts, but all the soldiers there are just chilling, and now they're having dragon racing tournaments, for example. Now, I'm not trying to suggest a big world overhaul that would take away what lots of players crave in a new expansion, namely a brand new land to explore, and preferably they want one with the scale and scope of the Dragon Isles. So a reskin of the world, but what we do in it is anyone's guess. Like, will we get an Azeroth World War of Void versus Light? Will we end up exploring the uncharted lands across the sea? Will we reunite Nathanos with Sylvanas? Probably not. But whatever the case, I'm not sure. But I've at least convinced myself of the following. The next expansion will, in its own way, celebrate 20 years of the World of Warcraft. I can see heavy emphasis, super heavy emphasis on nostalgia with revisiting old characters, follow-up on locations left alone for years, but still stopping short of redoing questlines that would take away from the usual lands to explore. Think Cataclysm, but with a different sort of balancing act. I can envision Thrall on a boat with his family sailing off to a new adventure, and we join them. I can see the advanced races of the world divided not by faction but by belief over who's going to take Azeroth to a brighter future. The Light, or the Void, or the Titans, or the Murloc gods, or something. So I had fun talking this up. I appreciate the listen, and I would love to read what you have to say. So like the video, subscribe for more coverage, catch me live, and I'll catch you later. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.